U.S. President Donald Trump is warning of an economic and national security disaster if the Supreme Court overturns its use of emergency powers to impose sweeping tariffs on nearly every country. Speaking Monday, Trump claimed the tariffs have generated trillions in tariff and investment income.
The numbers were reported so incorrectly. The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in or gotten in terms of investment from the tariffs.
Trump had previously floated the idea of using tariff revenues to pay for what he calls a dividend to lower-earning Americans and repeated his plans on Monday.
We're going to issue a dividend to our middle-income people and lower-income people of about $2,000, and we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt.
During last week's oral arguments on the tariff case, Supreme Court justices cast doubt on Trump's authority to impose tariffs under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which contains no references to tariffs. Justice Amy Coney Barrett suggested it could be a mess for the courts to administer refunds to U.S. importers who have paid tariffs that were declared illegal. Trump took issue with media reports about the amount of duties collected that the government might have to repay if the Supreme Court agrees with a lower court that Trump's sweeping tariffs were illegal.
So they're not giving the right numbers. It would be an economic disaster. It would be a national security disaster if we lost the case in the Supreme Court.
It remains unclear exactly when the highest court will rule and whether companies will be entitled to refunds of more than $100 billion in IEEPA tariffs paid so far if Trump loses. The tariff debate comes as Trump's poll numbers have slipped in recent months, with growing public frustration over inflation and economic uncertainty, driving voters toward Democrats in recent elections. Yet Trump hailed what he called a decline in inflation since he took office, arguing that food prices and energy prices were coming down and inflation would be down to 1.5%, quote, pretty soon. But government data shows tariffs continue to push up costs for everyday goods, from clothing and furniture to appliances and sporting gear. Consumer prices rose 3% in the year through September, slightly higher than the previous month.
Thick black smoke billows near a court in Islamabad after a suicide bomber struck Pakistan's capital Tuesday. Authorities said the explosion killed 12 people and wounded 27 others and marked the first strike on civilians in the city in a decade. An eyewitness said chaos ensued at the site when the bomber detonated the device near the court's entrance.
It was around 11:50 a.m. and we were in the court premises. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion. As the blast occurred, a severed head fell inside the court premises. After that, one or two arms of the person fell. Then, chaos erupted inside the court, in the district courts.
Pakistani Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi said the bomber tried to enter the court building on foot, but, unable to enter, detonated the device outside near a police vehicle.
There is a great distress in my mind, a sense of confusion and concern that if the courts, where every ordinary and prominent person goes, and where cases are resolved, are not safe, then who is safe in the city? This is a very disturbing thing, and those in high authority should take some action regarding this.
Pakistan's defense minister said the attack had driven the country into a, quote, state of war, with officials blaming militants they say are harbored by Afghanistan. The Taliban-ruled Afghanistan has denied the accusations, while the Pakistani Taliban have likewise denied involvement in the attacks. The attack on Islamabad has raised alarms with the United Nations, with a spokesman saying the body is calling for a probe into the violence.
The Secretary General condemns acts of violence and terrorism in the strongest terms. He reiterates that all perpetrators of terrorism must be held accountable, and he calls for a full investigation.
A Turkish military airplane carrying at least 20 people crashed in Georgia on Tuesday after departing from Azerbaijan. Authorities reported casualties, though the exact number was unclear, and the cause of the crash was not immediately known. Turkey's defense ministry said 20 Turkish personnel were on board the C-130 cargo plane, including the flight crew, but provided no additional details on possible passengers of other nationalities. President Tayyip Erdogan interrupted the speech in Ankara to offer condolences.
God willing, we will overcome this crash with minimum hardships. May God rest the soul of our martyrs and let us be with them through our prayers.
The C-130 Hercules is a cargo, troop, and equipment carrier aircraft that can make use of unprepared runways for takeoffs and landings. Its versatile airframe has enabled it to be used for other purposes as well, including as a gunship and for airborne assault and reconnaissance operations. U.S. firm Lockheed Martin, which makes the C-130 Hercules that is widely used by air forces around the world, did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
Demands gender justice, not as a side note, but as the foundation. Same responsibility across the world. Because the women united, the people united will never be defeated.
Thailand's government confirmed on Tuesday that it will halt the implementation of an enhanced ceasefire agreement with Cambodia, and it said it would explain its decision to Washington. The agreement was signed in the presence of U.S. President Donald Trump last month. Both sides blame each other for starting the exchange of rockets and heavy artillery in July, which killed at least 48 people and temporarily displaced around 300,000 people during their worst fighting in recent history. Tensions between the two Southeast Asian nations have escalated following a landmine blast on Monday that injured 4 Thai soldiers. Thailand's military has accused Cambodia of laying new mines after the two countries agreed on the enhanced ceasefire steps, which included the withdrawal of troops and heavy weapons. Thai Prime Minister Anutin Chanwairakul said,
I agree and support the decisions made by the Defense Ministry and the military on this. All the work that we have put forward earlier would have to stop until we have clarity.
Thailand's Defense Minister Natapon Narfanit said the government will also delay the return of 18 Cambodian prisoners of war currently held by its military. He declined to answer a question on whether troops would be redeployed. On Tuesday, Cambodia's defense ministry denied that it had laid new landmines and urged Thailand to avoid patrols in old minefield areas. It also reiterated its commitment to working with Bangkok in line with the October deal.
A quiet crisis is unfolding in this pine forest in southern Lebanon. Qassim is the Middle East's largest productive pine forest, where Lebanon's prized pine nuts are harvested. But many of the cones are barren, risking a historic lifeline for local communities. For decades, Milad Harib's family survived on the forest's bounty.
I built a house from this pine business, thank God, but now it has been 6 or 7 years and things are really bad, and things are getting much worse. Now if we work, we eat, and if we don't work, we don't eat.
Qassim's farmers blamed weather changes until scientists confirmed that an invasive insect had taken hold, one that feeds on the cones. Nabil Nemer, a forest health expert at the Holy Spirit University in Kaslik, says Leptoglossus occidentalis is originally from North America. It probably arrived in Lebanon in untreated wooden shipping pallets, he said, and has since spread across the Mediterranean to Turkey and other areas. Trees weakened by the ravages of climate change are particularly vulnerable.
بالأمور الطبيعية.
Cones naturally have up to 5% empty or incomplete seeds. But if the insect attacks, as many as 80 out of 100 seeds can be empty. Harvesting pine cones is grueling work and it's dangerous. Workers balance on narrow branches without safety gear to collect cones nestled high in the canopy. Injuries are common and pay has dwindled along with the yields. Nabil Assad is a Syrian labourer who has harvested pine nuts in Lebanon for over a decade.
There used to be more than 200, 250 of us working during this season, between tree workers and field workers. Now we are fewer. Barely 20, 30 people work because the season has slowed down. There's no pine season. The cones aren't good. They are empty.
In South Africa's False Bay, small-scale fishers return from the water with just 2 buckets of mullet. It's a fraction of the 10 buckets they say they routinely harvested 2 years ago. As negotiators at the COP30 climate summit in Brazil debate global adaptation frameworks, South Africa's coastal fishing communities are confronting the realities of a warming ocean and restrictive policies. For fisher Shafiq Gorleed and his crew, the limited catch means no food on the table and no money.
But in the years big, you can come and you can throw the net full of fish. But now, at those years now, it's bad, very bad.
According to government records, South Africa's waters are seeing declines in anchovy and sardines. Marine scientists attribute this to rising sea surface temperatures, which have increased by up to 2 degrees Celsius in parts of the coast, pushing cold water species into distant and deeper zones. On the other side of the peninsula, in Cork Bay, South Africa's oldest small boat harbour, ships sit idle. The community faces a dual threat: climate stress and policy exclusion. Fishers like Sadiq Ahmed say seasonal restrictions remain a barrier.
Water is warm here, so the catches you get is the crayfish don't survive, they die quickly. When the water gets colder, this is the months they don't allow us to catch, and the quality of the crayfish is better also.
At COP30 in Brazil, South Africa is advocating for climate adaptation finance and a global framework to support vulnerable communities. The country is co-chairing negotiations which aim to improve resilience in sectors like agriculture and fisheries. Efforts to improve sustainability in areas like Cork Bay are underway. Environmental groups are promoting awareness of marine protected areas which aim to restore fish populations through spatial management. As COP30 focuses on implementation, the small-scale fishers called for more than policy reform. They want recognition of their role in marine stewardship and support to adapt before their boats are permanently grounded.
We are a family business. You think back to your family. You remember your grandfather. You remember those moments spent inside the factory. And what motivated you was pride in quality. What motivated them? That's how it was passed down. So, seeing all of this is like seeing a certain fulfillment. Seeing many people from Tandil coming to taste the salami, to support a salami record. Well, all of that takes you back to that moment. Inside the factory, you, your grandfather, your dad, and those beautiful stories, right?
Se lo tenés que llevar al intendente. Primer metro simbólico de estos 487. Ahí está el primer metro de salame, señoras y señores. Municipal. Fuerte el aplauso entonces.
This is an action movie that is like no other. In the fact that we've seen visceral, intense action movies, that's one thing. But you have this Edgar Wright lens on all of it that makes every single sequence not only intense, but absolutely electrifyingly fun. And he also, you have all the different cameos. It's a road movie.
Stephen King wrote the book back in 1973. It wasn't published till 1982. But the year in which he set the novel was 2025. So it seems like perfect kind of kismet that we're out in the last couple of weeks of 2025.
Oh my gosh, I feel like everyone's looking for an excuse to go and escape and have some fun in the cinema, and I think The Running Man is just the best film to kind of escape to. It's got great music, it's got great action scenes, it's thrilling, it's exciting, it's going to keep you on the edge of your seat, and Edgar Wright's a genius, and Glenn Powell's the best action hero ever.
You know, I came with my daughter and I let her kind of pick it, so I thought it was going to be more geared towards her. So I just kind of expected a lot of art on the wall and kind of maybe touching things, but I didn't realize I was going to be foam all over me and coloring, you know, turtles that are going to go on the wall and become animated. So it was just a lot different than I really thought.
Just wonderful because you start in a dark room. The first room you already enter, the ceiling is so high and the lights are just in your face, but also the smell.